Once upon a time, a girl named Cinderella lived in a tiny cottage with her evil stepmother and stepsisters. Every day, she would lose one of her slippers while running from the house to escape her miserable life. And every time she lost a shoe, her cat would sneak into the house of the royal tailor and swap it for a tuna tin. And so Cinderella was always a shoe down, but at least she had plenty of tuna. One day, an invitation arrived to the prince's ball. Cinderella wanted to go, but she was already down to just one slipper, and she didn't have a new one made because she knew her stepfamily would just make her scrub the floors with the scraps of fabric. So Cinderella decided that she wasn't going to the ball. Then her fairy godmother appeared and waved her magic wand, creating a beautiful dress for Cinderella and a pumpkin carriage to ride in style. But Cinderella still had no shoe to wear. So the fairy godmother waved her magic wand again, making a single shimmering shoe just for her. But it'll only last until midnight, warned the fairy godmother, and if you don't get home before then, the spell will be broken. As Cinderella was getting ready to leave, she heard a tiny cry and she looked out the window. There was a hedgehog stuck in the glittery shoe. Cinderella couldn't bear to leave her there, so she stopped to help. She carefully pulled the thorn out of the shoe, and the hedgehog scampered away. Cinderella finally made it to the ball just as the clock struck 11, and she danced and twirled in her beautiful dress, losing track of time. At midnight, she ran out of the palace, but in her panic, she lost one of her new slippers. The prince saw her running away and was instantly smitten. All he could think about was finding the mysterious girl who fit that shoe. Meanwhile, back at the cottage, Cinderella's fairy godmother was worried. She knew Cinderella hadn't taken the shoe off before she came home. So when she arrived back at the cottage, Cinderella's foot was inside the shoe. With a wave of her magic wand, the shoe vanished and Cinderella was back to having 0 pairs of shoes. The next day, the prince went to the tailor, demanding to know who ordered a pair of shoes to fit the mysterious girl who attended the ball. The tailor didn't know, so the prince told him to make 2 left shoes to try. Maybe she'd lost one and had only brought 1 pair to the ball. When the prince put on the shoes, he felt like he was being pricked with needles. They were clearly not the right shoes. Discouraged, he sat on a nearby stool and took off one of his rings. Just then, a small box tumbled out of his pocket and landed on the floor with a clatter. It was a ring box, but instead of a diamond, there was a pancake batter recipe inside. The prince smiled, remembering the night before. He had been so focused on trying to find Cinderella that he had forgotten all about this important delivery. He had promised his mother he would bring the recipe to her. You see, the queen had gotten sick, and the only thing that could cure her now was a plate of delicious midnight pancakes. Now that he thought about it, the mysterious girl at the ball had also eaten midnight pancakes. Could she be the one to save his mother? But how could he find her without a shoe? The prince tried to remember what she looked like. She had kind eyes and long, flowing hair, but he couldn't remember her shoe size. He sighed. There was nothing he could do now except wait for Cinderella to come to him. Meanwhile, Cinderella was scrubbing the floor when the prince arrived with the pancake batter. He told her about the midnight pancakes and asked if she could make some for his mother. Cinderella agreed, but warned him that she needed a special pan to make them. She handed it to him and told him to return it the next night. The prince rushed off to his mother, and soon she was well enough to come to the next night's ball. This time, Cinderella went with her stepfamily. The prince arrived with the frying pan, but Cinderella refused to make the pancakes until he agreed to let her buy back her old shoes from the tailor. Once she got her slippers back, Cinderella made a perfect stack of midnight pancakes for the queen. Then she flipped one of her slippers into the hot frying pan. A delicious smell filled the air, and the prince realized that Cinderella was the mysterious shoemaker too. He took her hand and said, "Will you marry me?" And she said yes. They opened up a 24/7 pancake-and-palace shoe shop and lived happily ever after.